Tonight, I ended up playing saxophone with Jack Hues of Wang Chung. How was your night? How did that happen, you might be asking yourself? Well, 'tis a long and twisty tale, so sit back and get yourself a drink. Because first, there are some important and relevant background information. So I have played guitar and keyboards and bass for about 42 years, I think. Shut up, I'm old. Aware of this. I played alto saxophone, I think in the 6th and 7th grade. And then I also continued to play it in bands where I played guitar, where I would just play certain solos, like the solo to Never Tear Us Apart by NXS. And I played the solo to On the Dark Side from John Cafferty and Beaver Brown Band from the Eddie and the Cruisers soundtrack, one of the best soundtracks ever. And I played One More Night by Phil Collins, stuff like that. Again, yes, I'm aware, I'm old. So at some point I pawned my saxophone and then I didn't play again for decades. Something like 30 years, I think. I'm not sure. In 2021, I formed a yacht rock band called Yacht Z, and I thought, there sure is some tasty saxophone stuff in some of these songs. Maybe I should pick it back up. And apparently the universe agreed because two very incredibly generous friends, shout out to Kathy Rose Center and Chris Wilson, who gave me a tenor saxophone and an alto saxophone respectively over the years, so that I could pick it back up. Also starting in 2021, there's an amazing cover band here in town called Skyrocket. And I knew several of the members, so they asked me to be a sub on keys and guitar, occasionally whenever they needed one. So I've been doing that since 2021. Also, one of the members of Skyrocket is my good friend Johnny Gowdy, who's amazing and an Austin legend. He has a podcast, it's really cool, called How Did I Get Here?, which I was lucky enough to be a guest on. Thank you for that, Johnny. But also, Jack Hues from Wang Chung was a guest on that podcast. And after that, him and Johnny, they kind of became friends. So that's how it came to be that my friend Darren, the drummer for Skyrocket, called me a few weeks ago and asked me if I would play saxophone on Dance Hall Days by Wang Chung because Jack Hues was going to sit in and sing it. He lives in the Austin area here. Now, keep in mind that I still feel like a mediocre amateur on saxophone, having only picked it back up in 2021. And I still get really nervous and really in my head about it. So part of me, when Darren asked me to do this, was like, thinking, are you sure? Are you sure you're up for this? Is this a good idea? But luckily, my mouth was already ahead of my brain and was saying, yeah, sure, of course I will do that. They also wanted me to play on Never Tear Us Apart by NXS. So full circle moment there. So I spend the next few weeks working on those songs. I am not really an improviser on saxophone because, again, I'm not very good. So I tend to just learn whatever parts are there on the recording. And then I had one rehearsal with the band last Wednesday before the show. Minus Jack, he was not at the rehearsal. And I was pretty in my head at first, and I felt like it was kind of shaky. It wasn't great. But by the end of the night, we'd run through them a few times, and I was feeling good, having a good time. And at least from what I heard from everybody, they all said it sounded great. So cool. Today, Saturday, show day. It arrives, and I show up to sound check for my two songs, and Jack is there as well to run through Dance All Days with us. Super talented, nice, wonderful dude. Couldn't be cooler. Wang Chung. Come on. Who does not like Wang Chung? Everybody likes Wang Chung. And let me ask you this. What other band is a verb? Huh? I can't say, hey, I Beatles'd tonight. You know what I did tonight? I Rolling Stoned? No. I absolutely can say I Wang Chung'd tonight. Or is it wanged? Did I wanged Chung tonight? No, I'm pretty sure it's Wang Chung'd. I Wang Chung'd tonight. Look, they are part of eternal music culture forever. We run through the song once, it goes well. Jack and his lovely wife seem very happy and complimentary. Then Jack asks me, hey, I think it would sound good if you could play that up an octave. He's English. I'm sorry for the bad. I just like doing accents. I think it would sound good if you could play it up an octave. Well, part of me panics because again, I want to blurt out a disclaimer in this moment about how I'm not very good and I'm not sure if I can make the adjustment at the last minute without rehearsal because I'm an amateur. But luckily, again, my mouth is ahead of my brain and just says, yeah, sure. And once I clarify that he just means like the main riff. Because the thing is, the solo at the end, I already had to alter it because I'm not good enough to play way up into the octave where that solo actually begins on the recording. So I had to, make a few alterations for my skill level. Well, then, Jack says to me, oh, and then the third verse, I'd like to do this thing where between my lines, you play something, so we go back and forth. Stage 2, brain panic. Because my brain's now going, I have not rehearsed that. I can't improvise. I'm not very good. But again, luckily, my mouth takes over and is smart enough to simply say, yeah, sure. We try it again, and it actually goes pretty well. Compliments all around. And I feel good about it. Several people give me specific compliments on how they liked the things that I chose to play. They said they were tasty and soulful and riffs that said something and, really fit well. And in that moment, I realized that the limits of my abilities and my lack of confidence probably worked in my favor because they made me keep it simple but soulful. I knew enough to play something that fit without worrying about, being flashy or trying to throw in, look what I can do riffs, and just simple, soulful. The band finished out their first set with the 2 songs that I played on, the last one being Dance Hall Days when they brought Jack out. And the place was sold out, went crazy. Everyone got their phones out. The energy was amazing. The band was amazing. I was far from perfect, but I had a blast. I had a really good time, and I played as best as I could from the heart. And afterward, as I walked back to my car, I kind of had to just take a moment to just sit on this rock bench in downtown Austin and sort of just process what had just happened and the crazy life journey that led me there. At this point, the temperature outside was dropping. It was cooling off. There was a nice brisk breeze, and that felt almost as good as just the immense gratitude that I had for it all. And it just made me think that sometimes you can do more than you think or know. And so I say this to you all from the heart because it's a good motto. Everybody Wang Chung tonight.